Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to play What Color Is That Color? The category is the Kingsguard armor in George R.R. Martin's A Game of Thrones, and the color we're looking for is white. Okay, now let's see if our contestants know what the color white is. Now, they've already submitted their answers ahead of time, and first up we have the writers of Game of Thrones, David and Dan, D&D. Now, just a reminder, the answer we're looking for is white armor with a white cloak. So, what have you got for us? Okay, we see a white cloak. That's promising so far, but if we zoom out, oh, the color's gold. Oh, you were so close, but the good news is there are two of you, right? So you have another chance to win. So once again, what color is the white Kingsguard armor? Ooh, I'm afraid that's still gold, with some religious iconography added on, however. The good news is that you have a dynasty change recorded in your script, so you get another shot. Now, once again, what color is the white Kingsguard armor? And we see black. That's like the exact opposite of white. And there's not even a white cloak. Okay, we also have you down for some light time travel in your show. So, we're going to give you one more chance. So, for the last time, what color is the white armor of the Kingsguard? Gray. You picked gray. Also, there is still not a white cloak. Okay, you guys just get out of here. Okay, so for our next contestant, we have Ryan Condal, the showrunner for House of the Dragon. It is an entirely different era, set 200 years before the series of Game of Thrones, so you are not constrained by the unique choices of the other contestants. So, once again, I will ask, what color is the white Kingsguard armor? Okay, we see a white cloak. This is good. Now let's zoom out a little bit, and oh, it's light gray. And I'm sorry to say, you have no teammate or time travel in your show, and you don't even have a dynasty change either, so I'm afraid that's all the chances you get. Now, on to our final contestant, Ira Parker, the showrunner for the new Game of Thrones series and Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So, I ask you for the last time, what color is the white Kingsguard armor? And we see that it is, it's actually white with a white cloak and everything. How did you pull off this white armor color? Well, it's white, isn't it? What? I hope you enjoyed that sort of fun opening, that little twist. The point is, though, that we finally got to see the Kingsguard armor in episode 2 of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And it's, like, finally book accurate in the sense that its main feature in the books is the fact that it's a white armor with a white cloak. And that's supposed to, like, imply, like, the purity and honor that the office of A Knight of the Kingsguard is gonna hold. And it's, like, it's finally on screen. It finally happened after 2 shows in, 15 years? Of course, when it comes to some golden armored individuals in the original series, they might not live up to that reputation of purity and sort of righteousness that the Kingsguard Knights are meant to employ. But at least at this Duncan Egg point in the timeline, we can see the Kingsguard are still trying to uphold that idea, at least. With the addition of Sir Donald of Duskendale, who we met in episode 2, and we must assume he's a really, truly great knight if he's not the son of a noble lord or anything. However, we do find out later in that same episode that he's actually the son of a very, very rich crabber. So we can see that, it's sort of shifting, especially with the Targaryens no longer having dragons and needing to control Westeros through more political means. And while Sir Donald Duskendale, I'm sure, is a perfectly fine knight and seems like a decent enough fella as well, I can't imagine that his decision was not at all influenced by the fact that his father was extremely, extremely rich. And that's part of the reason why some of the Kingsguard in the original Throne series were so terrible, is that even though it's not really said in the show, if you read the books, you realize they actually say that a lot of these people were actually put there after Robert's Rebellion because they were political appointments, right? Meant to appease the lords of great houses rather than actually being amazing knights. So if you ever wondered how someone like Meryn Trant got on the Kingsguard despite not being a good person at all and barely even a capable knight, that's how. Even Jaime Lannister, despite being just about the greatest knight in the realm before he got his hand chopped off, he was selected for the Kingsguard at age 16, which was the youngest ever recorded in its history. Granted, only 300-year history, but still, that's pretty cool, although even he was selected by the Mad King Aerys not for his martial prowess, but mainly to keep his father Tywin in line. Anyway, the point is, the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, they finally got the Kingsguard armor right, so, 3rd time's the charm for the 3rd show, though I suppose if you count the extra, additions in late-stage Game of Thrones, it's actually more like 5th times the charm, or is it 6th? Yeah, it's the 6th iteration. Now, I suppose at this point we should probably mention there is actually some good reasoning for why the Game of Thrones Kingsguard armor wasn't white to start off with, and that's because the costume designer Michelle Clapton said that, they thought the Kingsguard armor being white would be just too much and too hard to film, right? And so they kept, the cloak white, and they also used white enamel in the armor, and, this makes sense, since the first season of Game of Thrones famously did not have a lot of money, very low budget as compared to even, season season 2, and then when you get into the later seasons, they had apparently infinite money. And having already established that the Kingsguard armor was gold in season 1, they couldn't very well change it to white in season 2 on a whim, so it makes sense that they kept up with the armor throughout the series, and in all fairness, they did still have the white cloak, so you could argue was like one of the more central parts of the uniforms. It doesn't really matter what the armor itself is as long as a white cloak exists, right? However, the good news is that the opportunity of redesign came when the Faith entered the storyline in Season 5, and in Episode 6 of Season 6, we see the Knights of the Kingsguard exit the Sept of Baelor with the white armor, symbolizing the virtue of the Faith melt. Oh wait, no, they just painted a new logo on the breastplate. It's okay, though, because, flash ahead to the start of Season 7, Cersei's now the queen for whatever reason, and the budget of the show at this point is near infinite money, so they can really, they can actually make the white armor proper that is book accurate, right? And guess what? It's black. Oh my goodness. Well, I guess Cersei's like the evil queen, so it kind of makes some sense. It's not like they removed the white cloak that is the very essence of the Kingsguard, right? Right? Oh my gosh. Alright though, folks. It's not the end of the road yet. There's still one more chance for this show, alright? Because there's 2 characters in the show whose whole purpose is to provide flashbacks and exposition when it is required for the audience. So we need Dr. Branhattan and the most boring version of Bloodraven possible to save us here. And so, one of the aforementioned flashbacks is to the Tower of Joy, where Ned Stark and Howland Reed and a bunch of other people who apparently aren't important are there to save Lyanna Stark, Ned's sister. Except who's guarding the Tower of Joy but 3? Oh, wait, sorry. Yeah, the writer's room here. Despite the fact that, we have infinite money, we've decided to only go for 2 of the 3 Kingsguard. What? Why only 2? Well, we're gonna spend a lot of money on the Sept of Baelor exploding, and, oh yeah, the Knights of the Vale charging in like they're the Rohirrim, so we can't afford 1 extra guy. Oh. Well, we'll just cut Sir Oswell went. No one really cares about the Wents. So anyway, guarding the Tower of Joy, there are 2 Knights of Ares II's Kingsguard, right? And, it might make sense for them to actually wear different colored armor, right? Because the white cloaks and the white armor are perhaps a feature more of the Targaryen dynasty, right? Perhaps when the Baratheons took over, they decided to change the armor to, the golden armor for the golden crowned stag of House Baratheon, right? So it actually might make sense. So let's see what color they picked for these Targaryen Kingsguard, right? Alright, drumroll please. Da, 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 da. Gunmetal gray. Oh my. Alright, you had one job. You had one job and infinite money and no less than 3 opportunities to remedy an admittedly understandable mistake. Alright, this is on you. Okay then, moving on to the next installment in the Westeros Cinematic Universe, House of the Dragon, which takes place roughly 200 years before the start of the main series, during the reign of Targaryen, so it is a clean blank slate. Alright, Ryan Condal, your favorite book in the series is A Feast for Crows. You've got this, right? You add in Blackfire, Dark Sister, vassal houses, sigils, you even fixed the Iron Throne. So what can you do about the Kingsguard armor? Oh, it's gray. Gray with the white cloak, admittedly, but it's still gray. And this just in, white and gray, they're not the same color. So at this point, it's starting to look like we might never actually get the white Kingsguard armor properly adapted to screen, right? Until a few months ago when this little promo image was released. And what can you see in the background but the white Kingsguard armor? Oh my gosh. And as of the recording of this video, the most recent episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms was episode 2, which introduces us to 2 Kingsguard knights, Sir Donald Duskendale and Sir Roland Craycall, with this third guy standing in the back. I'm not really sure who he is. Either way, though, it's all very, very cool. Of course, this means that in show canon, at some point after House of the Dragon, the armor was switched from gray to white, and then at some point after Night of the Seven Kingdoms, it was switched to gunmetal gray, and then when Robert took over as king, then it was switched to gold, and then eventually religious iconography was added on, then it was switched entirely to black, and I think it was back to gold for Bran the Broken Character. However, it's very unlikely that we will ever actually get to see when these swaps were made, like under what king or what Master of Laws may have suggested it. That would give the Master of Laws something to do. And we could definitely speculate on this for a while, but that's not what we're going to do today. Wait, that's not what we're going to do today, and what was the point of this video? I guess the armor of 3 fictitious characters, it's white, and that's a good thing, so cool. Please join me next time when I talk about the other thing the show made white, Baelor Breakspear, and I'm obviously kidding, unless you really want to see that, in which case I still am not going to do it. So, anyway, have a good day, and I will see you next time. Philan Morghulis.